on the side of this process.
You could have come back.
And they told me to sit in the middle. I'm not trying to be the governor, okay? Now, what I'm about to tell you is decidedly not explosive. I'm definitely not saying that. Significant reform. Now, the guiding principles that we put forth in the proposal to reform our tax system is chiefly to be competitive, but also simple, fair, and efficient. The Michigan business tax and its predecessor before it were both very complicated and had certain components to it that were inherently unfair. The credit structure essentially made it very good for some industries and very bad for others. But this culture of picking winners and losers is not very conducive to creating an environment for job growth. And that's the purpose behind everything that we're doing here. When we talk about remaking the way we do the budget, the way we run our government, the way our regulatory environment operates, and our tax structure, it's all about future opportunity and prosperity, an important step toward creating opportunity and prosperity for the next generation after us. And so we came into this believing that our employers deserve a system that is fair, that it's easy to comply with, that treats all Michigan job providers the same, regardless of access to decision makers or regardless of industry that they happen to operate in. So we want to hang a sign out in front of Michigan that says open for business. That's what we want. I believe that's what you want. Jobs being our top priority, the corporate income tax will make us competitive again. Now, any of you who heard the governor describe this plan on the road, the campaign trail, it went something like this. You take your federal taxable income times 6%, get a number, write a check, or run your business. Simple, fair, and efficient. One of the more interesting points is the surprise people have had that he was serious. That is, in fact, what the proposal is. First of all, for decades, Michigan has levied a double tax on most of our businesses. There are many people here in the legislature, thankfully, that have spent time in the private sector, including business owners, folks that have had to make payroll, fill out these type of tax returns. And most of you were what we call pass-through entities, LLCs, S corporations, partnerships, and then also sole proprietorships who are taxed on the individual income tax for 100% of their business income, regardless of the salary they take, regardless of whether or not they take distributions. 100% is taxable, 100% of their profit taxable on the individual income tax return. Those entities were also subject to the general business tax as well, paying at 2 different levels. The plan that we are proposing would end that double taxation. Those pass-through entities and sole proprietors would be exempt, recognizing that they're already paying tax on their profits. That removes about 95,000 filers. 95,000 less filers for the corporate income tax than for the Michigan business tax before it. Now, we eliminated the credits that are attached to this tax. And now I'm just going to make that blanket statement, and we keep on getting follow-up questions. What about the, yep, that one too? What about the, yep, that one too? We eliminated all of the credits because we believe that in most cases, these credits were either picking winners and losers based on access or influence, or they were solving a problem, or they were solving a symptom to a problem. And we want to get to the root of the problem instead of treating those symptoms through credits. And so treat everybody the same, simple, fair, and efficient. There happen to be some small C corporations that qualify for the small business alternative rate currently. And those small C corporations would continue to qualify for that alternative rate. Now, you might ask what happens with all of the existing company-specific tax credits that have already been awarded. The governor had mentioned through 2015, we have already awarded $2 billion worth, at least. We have made provision in this budget to honor those credits, but to not issue them going forward. And we'll look forward to working with you on how best to do that. There's a few different options available that we've already started some discussions with. Now, the whole purpose behind this is to create that environment conducive to job growth, because job growth is really the clearest and best path to a structurally balanced budget on into the future. And so everything that we're doing today is an important first step, a major first step in making that happen. More jobs meaning more opportunity, more prosperity for our kids, for our grandkids. Now, the same model is being applied to the individual income tax as well. Simple, fair, and efficient. And there are a lot of preferences within our individual income tax as well. Now, while overall we are proposing to reduce the tax burden by about $250 million, after all is said and done in this particular budget, ongoing year to year following this budget, it will still be reduced by the scheduled decline in the individual income tax rate from 4.35 to 4.25. Now, this proposal would leave the rate at 4.25% after that, recognizing in future years a fund being created not to support higher spending, but other types of tax reform that are more urgent than the individual tax rate. And so most credits and exemptions within the individual income tax would be eliminated. And what are we left with? Of the states that have an income tax, Michigan is one of only 3 that go as far as we do on exemption of pensions. The average senior would not achieve, under our plan, a positive tax liability until over $40,000. This is chiefly due to 2 things. First, the exemption of Social Security, as the governor had explained, an exemption that goes beyond what federal law has in its tax, in the federal government's tax code. That comes to about $26 billion of income into the state of Michigan per year that would be exempt from this taxation. The other main component is the maintenance of the homestead property tax credit. However, even within the homestead property tax credit, it is unevenly distributed. Some people are at 60% support after a certain threshold. Others are at 100% support after a certain threshold, based on age. We propose to make it 80% for everybody. Again, being fair, treating everybody the same. The income threshold being $61,000, phasing out to $70,000. Total cost of the credit being the same as it is today on the budget, but being more evenly applied to everybody. Again, treating taxpayers the same. On the earned income tax credit, one of the larger credits would also be eliminated. Now, the earned income tax credit is a piggyback on the federal earned income tax credit, which is 5 times larger. Now, the policy behind it, which is to incent work, is a good one. And it's one that we believe is accomplished with the federal credit. We don't believe that there is any additional incentive to adding it to the Michigan income tax code. We would rather take those resources and make sure that we're able to do things like maintain Medicaid access, for example. The personal exemption of $3,700 would remain. It would be phased out after $75,000 for an individual or $150,000 for joint filers. The exemption for the disabled that exists today and all military treatment would be exactly the same as it is today as well. These tax changes represent shared sacrifice in the sense that at the end of the day, we're all being treated the same. With an eye toward the future, and it's very difficult, particularly when you look at demographic changes, to face up with some of the issues that will make it near impossible to balance our budgets on into the future under the current scenario. By 2030, 1 in 5, that's 20% of our population is expected to be retired. Now, you can probably get away with not addressing that reality right now. You could leave that to predecessors in the future. You could say the next person to be a senator or the next person to be a representative can deal with the reality that the largest growing sector of our population is exempt from the income tax code. But now is not the time to kick the can down the road. Now is the time to fix the problem for future generations. Treating everybody equally. Having a system that doesn't pick winners and losers. Having a system that is fair and competitive and evenly applied. Where does this leave us? Where do we stand in relation to our neighbors? Corporate income tax. Illinois 9.5%, Indiana 8.5%, Minnesota 9.8%, Wisconsin 7.9%. Ohio has a business activities tax, which is a different tax base. Ours is better at 6%. On the individual income tax, where do we stand? Illinois at 5%, Minnesota with a graduated rate topping out at 7.85%, Ohio at a graduated rate topping out at 6.24%, Wisconsin at a graduated rate topping out at 7.75%, only Indiana lower at 3.4% than Michigan at 4.25%. That this puts us in a position for growth. This puts all the focus on jobs, opportunity, prosperity for the next generation. And we're very proud of the work that had been done up to this point to come up with a structurally sound, fiscally sound plan that would meet the needs of our citizens and our job providers in this state, giving us a clear shot, a clear path to a return to prosperity. And we look forward to partnering with you here in the future in implementation of these ideas and incorporation of your ideas into a plan that will truly reinvent Michigan. I'll turn it over to John.